थी। और मुझे ध्यान है वहाँ तक बुधवार में हम आपके दर्शन यहाँ करते थे, तो इसी प्रकार हर बुधवार को वापस हम दर्शन, और ये सौभाग्य है हमारे दया गीता चिंतनमाला प्रेमपुरी आश्रम ट्रस्ट का कि दया परिवार की ओर से ये सुंदर गीता चिंतनमाला का लगभग 350 दिवस, साल के यानी पूरे वर्ष समझो कि हम ये सुन रहे हैं, और उसमें आप पधारी तो हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं, वंदन करते हैं और अभिनंदन करते हैं कि आपने हमारी ये जो एक डिमांड थी कि आप यहाँ गीता चिंतनमाला में पधारो, तो आपने स्वीकृति दी। और शायद ये जो नाम बोलना अच्छा नहीं लगता है कि वो जो काल था वो बीत गया, उसको हम याद न करें, और उसके बाद हम ये दर्शन का जो लाभ ले रहे हैं उसमें हमें ईश्वर की अनुकंपा है। भगवान कृष्ण भी यहाँ विराजमान है, और मैं विनती करूँ आप सबकी तरफ से ओम ओम ओम।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We have all assembled here to listen to the Bhagavad-Gita. But what exactly is the Bhagavad-Gita? The Gita is not a mere relic from the past that you listen to or you read when you have nothing better to do. It's not a pastime for retired people. It is an active, dynamic, vibrant prescription for life. So the question is, how do you know that you need the Bhagavad Gita? Do you wake up every morning inspired, enthusiastic, excited that you have one more day to live? And do you go to bed with a sense of fulfillment that what had to be done has been done? Not that you have done it, there's no ego in it. Just a quiet sense of satisfaction that what had to be done has been done. But there is more to be done, and so you're all geared up for the next day. Or do you wake up feeling, oh God, I have to go to work? And you drag your feet, you go late everywhere, you do the least possible work, come home as quickly as possible. And watch. What? Binge watch. Netflix and this, that, and the other. Do you lead a boring life? Are you stressed out for whatever reason? Things happen in the world, they come and go, but your stress remains. No? Earlier you were stressed out because there was COVID. Now you're stressed out for some other reason. Tomorrow you'll be stressed out for another reason. So, living is not that easy. Just because you were born and you can walk and speak and things like that does not mean that you know how to live life. That's a technique. See, you may be born a talented tennis player or a golfer or a cricketer, but by itself, it means nothing. You need training. You need to learn the rules of the game. Now there is such sophisticated training. that at a ripe old age of Nadal is what age? 30, 37. Well before 37, tennis players used to retire. He's still playing, he's still winning. So that's a technique. Similarly, living is a technique. The other day I found a 42-year-old retiring. I said, what? At 42, if you retire, forget retiring. At 41, people are dying of cardiac arrest. So this should be a wake-up call for us that there's something wrong in the world, in the way we approach life. And when you go back to our source, the Bhagavad-Gita, that has the answers to the problems today. Because the Bhagavad-Gita is not a story. The Bhagavad-Gita is the digest of the knowledge eked out by great scientists, scientific thinkers for centuries. That is applicable at all periods of time to all human beings. Doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. And even if you want success, and that is the theme of the third chapter, even if you want mere success, of course, third chapter goes beyond that. You have to apply the principles of the Gita consciously or unconsciously. How do we know that? When a man went to Steve Jobs and said, I admire you greatly, and I want to be as successful as you, what do I need to do? He didn't say join Harvard Business School or Wharton Business School or any of the MBA programs in the United States. He said, go to India, find a guru. And we have this wonderful privilege of having the knowledge of so many thousands of gurus. We don't want it. Why? My brother-in-law's sister's husband's niece has come. Trivial, silly things. Or it's raining. I can't come. When you have that commitment, and you must have that commitment, not to the Bhagavad Gita, to yourself, that during my lifetime, कुछ करके तो दिखाना चाहिए. You can't just eat, sleep, what else? Procreate and die like any other creature. You're a human being of outstanding caliber. You must do something with your resources. I'm not talking about wealth, even if you don't have any money. Just the internal human resources that we have are so great that you can work miracles in the world. What are you doing languishing here in Mumbai? Talking about petty, silly, inconsequential things. This is the bane of Indian life. You know, there is so much talent, so much intelligence, so much of internal resources that we have, 1.3 billion of us. What are we doing? Sweet nothing. Why? We are occupied at pettiness, whether it is in sport, at politics, of course, or even in buildings. What is my neighbor doing? How dare he do this? The politics that goes on in building societies is unimaginable. If all this energy is saved, conserved, and used for a positive thing, it will build yourself. Right? So the Bhagavad Gita infuses energy into us, dynamism, positivity, enthusiasm for just living. The fact that you can take a deep breath by yourself is something to celebrate, right? Look out of the window in the morning and see the sunrise if you wake up early enough. It's a miracle, isn't it? You look out and see the sunset. You go to the beach and see the ocean. You hear the birds chirp. You drink water, that's a miracle. And then you are excited every moment of your life. So that's what the Gita is about. What is the value of the Bhagavad-Gita in our life? It gives us the world and beyond. People believe that if you turn spiritual, you can't have prosperity in the world. Who says that? Krishna himself tells Arjuna, enjoy this vast kingdom. Who is he telling? Not Arjuna, us. This world is your kingdom. Enjoy it. But don't get stuck with it. Because beyond the world, there are very many more fascinating things waiting for us. Just as when a parent gives a toy to a child, how does the parent deal with the child? No parent wants to deny a toy to the child, but every parent is committed to introducing the child to many, many more enjoyable things in life than mere toys. But that's what we're doing. We're fooling around with toys all our life. The only difference is our toys are far more expensive than the poor child's toys. That's the only difference. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to acquire wealth and enjoy it. So, in the world, there are two classes of people: the haves, people who are wealthy, and people who are not wealthy. People who are wealthy are stressed out, they can't enjoy their wealth. People who don't have wealth, of course, can't enjoy. So, in short, nobody in the world is enjoying. Acquire wealth, enjoy it. Best in the world. Where did I go the other day? For a meal, I was invited somewhere. Every item in that meal was par excellence, superb. I enjoyed it, but the host couldn't. Why? High cholesterol, high triglycerides, high sugar, can't eat. I felt guilty. This guy is not eating. I am having a jolly good meal. So, not just that, it's not just about disease. Just because you have access to the good things of life, you indulge indiscriminately. Then what happens? You lose the enjoyment. We believe that more is more. No, more is less. The more you indulge, the less you enjoy. Every successive contact with the sense object diminishes the joy content in it. So you must learn from the Bhagavad Gita how to have regulated contact with sense objects so that your enjoyment of the world remains 100% till the last day of your life. So again now, the wealthy, the rich go all out, indulge, lose the enjoyment. This is called neutralized. So you want to buy a gift for a rich guy, you can't think of what to get because he has everything, but he enjoys nothing. And then there are the poor who don't have access to the good things of life, so they don't enjoy. What a state of affairs. That is why depression is increasing. That's why an antidepressant is the highest selling drug in the United States. And we are not far behind. We are depressed, we don't take the drugs. That's the only difference. Action. The third chapter talks about dynamic action, inspired action, excited action. Again, till the last day of your life. In our culture, there is no such thing as retirement. You act till the last day of your life. How? Not because you need to. There's a lady I still go for a walk on Marine Drive. And the lady, I used to call her my walking partner because other than meeting her on Marine Drive, I didn't meet her elsewhere. So one day she told me, my son doesn't work. I said, what? Doesn't work? 30-year-old guy doesn't work. So she says, he doesn't need to work. Sitting at home, he earns. I said, work is not about earning money. Do you understand that? You don't work for a living. You work for a cause. You work because you find joy in it, because you are excited about it. This is what Nadal said after he won the French Open. Some silly journalist went and told him, "Oh, how much money have you got?" He got irritated. He said, "It's not about money." Here is a guy whose foot was under anesthesia. He had so much pain, the foot was anesthetized. And that's how he played and that's how he won. And the guy says it's about money. You must understand. When you work for a higher cause, money comes to you. When you develop merit, you become an outstanding tennis player, a cricketer, an amazing musician, a heart-rending artist. The world is waiting for people with merit. You develop merit, the world will amply reward you. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to seek it. You don't have to run after it. It comes to you. No person worth the name has ever worked for money. But money has come to every person of merit. That's what the Gita says. Talks about perfect action. You perform that perfect action, and the world will come to you. You become a magnet for the good things of the world. Today we are all running after money like beggars, asking for crumbs. This is not the dignity and prestige of a human being. Live like a human being. Emotion. The Bhagavad-Gita speaks of pure emotion. Not the not the love that we profess to have. Our love is tainted, polluted with selfishness. There's a beautiful poem called Laodamia, written by William Wordsworth, and that highlights this. Mind you, he's not a Vedantin, he's just an English poet. But anybody who thinks comes to the same conclusion. So the poem is a longish poem, and the backdrop is that the Greeks and the Trojans were always at war with each other. And once, just before they went to war, there was a prophecy that the first Greek who lands on Trojan soil would be killed. Protasilus is this young Greek hero, handsome, inspired. And as the ship approaches, he jumps. He doesn't care about the prophecy. He fights valiantly, but he's killed, like the prophecy says. And his young, beautiful wife, Laodamia, can't accept it. She's in grief and prays to God to give her back her husband. God is impressed with her sincerity and loyalty and says, "Okay, I will give you back your husband, but only for 3 hours." She doesn't listen to the 3 hours. She sees his form and goes to embrace him. Her hands meet and she's heartbroken. Obviously, a person who's dead can't come alive again. He's a ghost who's come to counsel her, to give her advice. So her first question is, "Why did you have to jump? Did you not think of me?" And he says, "On thee too fondly did my memory hang, and on the joys we shared in mortal life, the paths we trod on, the fountains, flowers, so on and so forth. But lofty thought brought about my deliverance." So, and then he tells him, he says, he spake of love, such love as spirits feel in worlds whose course is equable and pure. He speaks of pure love. She doesn't understand that because she's attached to him. And he tells her, "Learn by a mortal yearning to ascend, seeking a higher object. Love was given, sanctioned, encouraged chiefly for that end, that self might be annulled." See, these are ideas that we must be brought up with. Suddenly, if you're exposed to it, you don't know what it is. You don't even know that your love is impure, it's selfish. You know what the difference is? Love plus selfishness is the love that we profess to have. So what must you do? Not drop the self-love. Drop the selfishness. Continue the love. Love is a beautiful thing to have. And don't focus your love only on one person. That becomes poisonous. Spread it. You must have in your heart so much love for people that in the morning when you go out, you should feel like hugging everybody. Don't do that, please. People will think you're mad. It's like the love that Sri Ramakrishna had for Vivekananda. He was Narendra, just a young boy. But Ramakrishna sensed the potential in that boy and would wait for him to come. And if he didn't come, he would be crestfallen. Not that he was attached. He had so much love for him and so much care that he wanted to communicate this knowledge to him. And when he came, he would actually feed him like you feed a baby. Now, this sounds like insanity, but it's extreme love. So, love you must have, but temper it with your intellect so that you don't seem mad. Pure love. It's a thought. We think, but we are confused, we're indecisive, we're deluded, we can't see things before us. The Bhagavad-Gita speaks of absolute clarity of thought, where you're 9 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead of everybody else. So nobody can take you for a ride. And in life, whether it's in business or any aspect of life, it is your ability to think that gives you success, right? We go to work not because we're doing hard physical work. The value that our companies have or whatever has for us is the ability to think. And if you're confused, you're agitated, you're disturbed, what can you think? That's why in the past, every king had an in-house sage who would be consulted on every important matter because they understood the value of clarity of thinking. It's not that the kings were not clear, but when it came to their attachments, their children, like in the Ramayana, Dashratha was told to send Ram and Lakshman to kill some demons. And he hesitated. He said, they're only little boys because of his attachment. I'll send my entire army. And his guru said, no, send the boys. And they went and came back victorious. So these are areas where you need clarity of thought. That is what the Bhagavad-Gita gives you. And finally, the focus on the permanent. We are fooling around with impermanent things, passing, temporary, fleeting. And we fall in love with them. Then when they go, you go. So he doesn't say, don't deal with the world. Of course, deal with the world, enjoy the world, have the world, possess, acquire, do what you want with the world. But never think that it is permanent. You must always understand that everything in the world will come but go. And for that going, you must be prepared. Just the thought that every person who's born will die sometime. Are you prepared for it? Not your own and your loved ones. Absolutely, totally unprepared. So when things happen, as they must, you're heartbroken, you crash. And then, at least then learn a lesson. No. You forget over time. And then you're back to the same thing. That's what's happened to us. During COVID times, what happened? We got used to the fact that you can't go out. You got used to the fact that liquor was not available. We got used to the fact that a lady could not go to a parlor. So she said, so what? If my hair's not done, doesn't mean I don't live. But now you're back with a vengeance. What is it called? Revenge. Revenge eating, revenge traveling, revenge vacationing, revenge everything. So that's what happens. You forget and get back to the same thing till you get hate again. So all that the Bhagavad Gita says is, understand this will pass. And then you're insured. As the 5th chapter says, you don't depend on temporary things. You are established in the permanent. So, before we continue with the verses, let's take a brief look at the overview of the chapter. The first 3 verses, first 2, deal with Arjuna's question. Arjuna is in a dilemma because, on the one hand, Krishna speaks of action, dynamic action. And on the other hand, in the 2nd chapter, he has spoken of the highest truth, that nobody dies, Atman is permanent, so on and so forth. So he's confused, and so are we. Do I accept and keep quiet, or do I fight? Do I let go, or do I grab? Do I speak up or keep quiet? Do I ignore or take notice and take action? We are confused, and so is Arjuna. So Arjuna asked this question, and the next verses 4 to 19 deal with the logic for action. Brilliant piece. Why must you act? What kind of action must you perform? And how beautifully is it? Nahi kaschit kshadavapi jatu tishthatya karma. Not for a split second can you remain without action. Then what kind of action? And after doing all this, he finds Arjuna sitting tight, not moving. So he gives him a nice emotional punch. You know, when you're trying to tell a child or a student or somebody else, you're trying to motivate someone to do something and there's nothing coming forth, then you use the emotional angle. And then it works. Simple thing. Like somebody comes over and you offer tea, coffee, nimbu pani, everything he says no to. Then you say, have panna, I'm having, he says, okay. That's an emotional uh, tool. So he uses that over 5 verses, and obviously Arjuna is ready for action. So the next 11 verses, 25 to 35, he gives a brilliant analysis of action. And in this portion is verse 30 is the prescription for right action, perfect action. And this every MBA student must learn. Every trader, every businessman, everyone should learn. Because this is the crux of action. Then Arjuna asks a question, again, which all of us experience. I know what is right, Krishna, but what is it that prevents me from doing what I want to do and makes me do what I know is wrong? And Krishna answers, for that you will have to come. Because if I give you all the answers, you'll stop coming from tomorrow. But the greatest obstacle in our lives, not just to action, is our own desires, our own wretched ego. And we are fanning it, encouraging it, nourishing it, nurturing it. And if you are not encouraging it, the environment encourages. No? Buy more, have more, travel more. If you don't have the money, don't worry. Buy now, pay later. And in the United States, they said, buy now, never pay. Your grandson will pay. So, desire is being fanned. And that is the greatest obstacle. And then the last few verses deal with how to remove this obstacle. So, with this little introduction, we'll begin with the first verse of chapter 3. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. O Janardana, that's another name for Krishna, protector of people. Why do you prescribe this violent action? If you think knowledge is superior to action, O Keshava, killer of Keshi. So, in his address, the two words that he used to address Krishna, lies his dilemma. Janardana is protector of people. Keshava, killer. Are you protector or killer? He doesn't know. Arjuna doesn't understand that action per se is neither good nor bad. Like, suppose I were to tell you that a man did something as a result of which another person died. Is that right or wrong? What would you say? Correct. But outside this hall, you would say wrong, right? But the fact is, he is a surgeon who has tried his level best to save a man from dying. And unfortunately, it didn't work. Right? So, whether it is a surgeon operating on a patient or a soldier trying to protect his nation, the act is that of killing. Is it right or wrong? Depends on the attitude. Same thing with all of us. It is not the action that makes it right or wrong. It's the attitude, the motivation, the intention behind the action that makes the difference. So Arjuna obviously doesn't understand that. And Arjuna's confusion comes from the fact that Krishna has spoken in two languages, two attitudes. One moment he says act, another moment he eulogizes knowledge. So Arjuna is confusion is valid, and he continues his question in the second verse. Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyohamapnuyam. You confuse my intellect with your seemingly contradictory words. Tell me decisively that one path by which I can achieve the highest. So, see, in his language itself, Arjuna portrays that he's a man of action. He's not a person who sits and thinks and weighs the pros and cons and all. He's not a thinker. And he's a soldier. So, soldiers know only one thing: follow orders. Like in the charge of the light brigade, he says, theirs was not to question why, theirs was but to do and die. That's it. A soldier only does and dies, but you ask him to think is beyond him. Arjuna is that category. And here Krishna is on the one hand talking of indestructibility of the soul, and on the other hand he says act as a Krishna. Arjuna is totally confused. But he is clear about his goal. He says, I want Shreya. Tadekam vada nishchite. Tell me one path by which I can achieve Shreya. So this brings us to the two paths available for us as human beings. The two paths are Preyaha, that which is Priyam, pleasant, the path of the pleasant, which gives instant pleasure. We are in that age now of instant pleasure. No? Swipe right, swipe left, you get all the answers. You don't have to wait. Any problem, any question you have, just do a Google search. My granddaughter the other day came and said, 7 of my classmates have swine flu. How? What is swine flu? How many days do you have to be at home? I didn't have the answers. She says, 1 minute. She goes on her phone, has the answer. So we are in the age of instant gratification. That is prayer. But the problem with prayer is that in life, it's a law. That which gives you instant pleasure gives you sorrow in the end. That people don't understand. Shreya, on the other hand, the path of the good, that which is good for you, is not pleasant in the beginning. Why it is so, I don't know. I didn't create the world. But that it is so, you must understand. In every area of life. Have you ever wondered why food that is tasty, chatpata, you think of it and your mouth waters, is bad for you? Huh? Fried stuff, junk food, all of this is bad for you. And then eating vegetables, you talk to a child, yucky. But it's good for you, good for your health. To wake up early in the morning and exercise, how many of you like it? See, not one hand went up. Okay. By and large, to loll around in bed is so pleasant. But then, bedridden rest of your life. Things like that. So he makes it very clear. I'm not in it for the short term. I want the long term. I want Shreya. And so having made this clear, now Krishna answers in verse 3. Shri Bhagavan Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. So Sri Bhagavan Krishna speaks and he says, O Anagha, sinless one, since ancient times the twofold path was given by me to this world, the path of knowledge for the contemplative and the path of action for the active. So with this verse, we enter the second topic of this chapter, logic, reason for action. So, the beauty of the Bhagavad-Gita is in just the sidelines teach you so much philosophy. Krishna knows, yes, Krishna and Arjuna were dear friends. But he knows that Arjuna is not a perfect person. He's not a sinless one. He's an ordinary guy. Yet when he addresses him, he says, Anagha, sinless one, perfect. What does that convey to us? You see in another person what you have within you. If you see evil, your mind is evil. If you see corruption, you are corrupt. If you see negativity, you are full of negativity. So therefore, if you want to improve in life, you want to get on in life, drop negativity, shake it off like a dog shakes water. Have you seen a dog who's just had a bath? You take it to, what is it called? And animals are taken where? Spa. You take it to a spa, then they use hair dryer and all that. The dog doesn't need. What does the dog do? Immediately after it's given a bath, it gives itself a nice shake. What happens? 90% of the water is gone. That's what you must do with negativity. From morning to now, you have heard all kinds of gossip. Those who are married, the wife will come and talk about your mother. 2 minutes later, the mother will come and say something negative about your wife. Learn to shake it off. Don't take either. Because both are petty. Then your boss will say something about somebody else, a colleague will say something about. You've collected all kinds of negativity. Shake it off. And then you see beauty everywhere. Because every single human being has some unique positive quality. Focus there. Your driver may be, I don't know. Yeah. Somebody told me the driver comes late all the time. But he's a good human being. He's a reliable guy. He's honest. You can trust your children with him. So I told him there's always a trade-off, So you can always fix late coming. You want him to come at 9, tell him come at 8:30. On the dot of 9, he'll appear. But don't sit there and complain about him all the time. You're neither solving the problem nor are you giving your mind any rest. Anagha, sinless one. Look at everyone as sinless. There is always this twofold path. The path of knowledge for the contemplative, path of action for the active. So by and large, humanity can be divided into two types of people. One, the vast majority, full of desires, active. So when you have desires, the desire must manifest as action at the body level, right? And path of knowledge for the contemplative, people who have less desires won't react to anything. Okay, let's take an example. You're sitting watching, what is that, Commonwealth Games. In between, commercials come. So you see an ad for a new car that's being launched. I'm just giving an example, I don't know. So if you have a desire for a car, it'll tick off a whole lot of reactions in you. Oh, looks good. I must test drive it. And how do I test drive it? So it starts action. Your neighbor, your wife maybe, no desire for car, she's happy with what she has. She hears it, she watches, no reaction. Next, vacation in Turkey. You're all excited. Turkey is one place I have not gone to. Somebody else who doesn't have a desire for travel, so who wants to go? Your bags will get lost and this, that. Nowadays, that's what's happening. Nothing is happening. So, a person with a lot of, there are 3 transactions that all of us go through. It's called the traffic of life. One is receipt of stimuli from the world. You hear, see, smell, all this goes on. It comes to you. Stimuli from the world come to you. Then they react with your desires at the level of your mind and intellect. So first is receipt of stimuli, second, reaction at the level of mind and intellect, and depending on this reaction, there is a response back into the world. So it's like having 2 test tubes in a chemistry lab. Don't worry, I'm not talking high chemistry, school chemistry. So in one test tube, you have a chemical, the other test tube is empty, right? And you pour sulfuric acid into both the test tubes. What happens? The test tube that has the chemical, there is an effervescence, there's a reaction and an effervescence, right? You have to be careful because it might come onto your hands. Second, however much acid you pour into that empty test tube, nothing happens. So human beings are like that. When you're full of desires, then there is that effervescence. Reaction, response. When you don't have many desires, you will be cool, calm, collected, nothing happens. There's a guy many years ago, there used to be a handloom exhibition at Cross Maidan, and 20% discount was given. That was a genuine discounter, not like nowadays. So there's this man whose wife got highly excited and said, "Oh, I must go to this exhibition and there's 20% discount and all that." The husband was busy reading the newspaper, nothing happened to him. So she says, "Will you come? You'll also get nice thing." He says, "I know a way by which you get 100% discount." So she got even more excited. "What way?" He says, "Just sit at home, don't go." 100% you'll save. So it's like that. Now, for the people who have many desires, if they want to become spiritual, what will they do? Whatever they're already doing, convert it into worship. So they convert action to worship, that is karma yoga. Those who are inward looking, who don't have too many desires, it's like you can't go to your 90-year-old grandmother and say, Uttishta grandmother. What can she act? She can barely get up. Doesn't work. So such, I don't mean grandmothers, people who have less desires are by nature contemplative. So to them, you give the path of knowledge. Now, Arjuna is clearly not a contemplative person. He's a man of action. He wants his kingdom, he wants the luxuries of the palace life, and so on and so forth. So he has to act. Now he is saying, I will not act. He put down his bow and arrow and says, refuse to act. That is a temporary aberration. So what happens with us, this is also what happens with us, is sometimes when the situation is messy, difficult, you say, I don't want it. And you refuse to act. But that's not because you really don't want it. It's because of the pain associated with it that you say, I don't want it. What is the pain associated with Arjuna? That he has to fight his own patriarch, Bhishma, whom he adored and worshipped. In fact, it was Bhishma's sacrifice of the kingdom that these people got it and they're fighting for it. And Dronacharya, the guru who taught him archery, not physics and chemistry. So it's a naughty situation. He doesn't want it. He says, I don't. Krishna says, no, you must. Why? Because it's your obligation. So this is the two parts. And now he continues verse 4. Na karmana manarambhat naishkarmyam purushoshnute na cha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. One does not attain actionlessness by not acting, nor does one attain perfection by just renouncing. So, see, because we don't know how it functions, most of us think that just by giving up action, you'll reach perfection. Not so. Because get to the very source of the problem. What is the source? You perform an action. Let's say there is a singer who sings. Why is he singing and you're not singing? Because he has a desire for singing. Why does he have a desire for singing? Because sometime he thought of singing. The thought came in his mind. And he invested in that thought, and that's how he got the desire. Now comes the subtle part. Why do you think? Why does the thought of music come to one person, thought of sport come to another person? Because you have a vasana for it. Now, vasana is difficult to understand because it precedes the intellect. So actually, you can't understand vasana. You understand it only in terms of its manifestation. So vasana is a deep-rooted inclination, an innate leaning towards a particular thing. It's not just careers or professions, everything. One person likes sweets, another person likes savories. Why? Vasana. One person likes red color, another person likes white color. Why? Vasana. Everything about you comes from vasana. So, unless you address vasana, just by stopping action, what are you achieving? You only end up a frustrated individual because you're full of vasanas, full of thoughts, full of desires, and no outlet for it. This is, by and large, our idea of renunciation. So the moment a person comes and says, I'm selling my business and I'm giving up on my family and going to the Himalayas, I know he's in for a bad time. So I tell him, please do the Himalayas a favor. Don't go and pollute Himalayas. Stay here. Because you will go and start Himalaya silk store there. start doing business there because you have business vasana. It's not meant for everyone. And this is not the way to go about it. So that's what he says. You don't achieve actionlessness. Means when he says actionlessness, he means desirelessness, thoughtlessness, vasanalessness. Because the formula is human being minus desire equals God. You don't get to that state by merely stopping action. Nor do you get there by just renouncing whatever you're doing. You get there through action. When a thorn is embedded in your flesh, you remove it with another thorn. So you have all kinds of thorns embedded in you. Desires. How do you remove them? With another desire, a higher desire. This is the crux of karma yoga. Remove action from its very root. You know? Because that's the thing. Jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, singes knowledge, singes the vasana, desire. How? A child is full of desire for toys. You can't persuade a child to give up desire for toys. You don't even try that. You just have to wait till the child grows into a teenager, and what a fantastic transformation that is. You just have to watch it. She turns 12, 12 and a half, 13, and what happens? She now has access to far more thrilling things. No? Don't look at me like that. You've gone through it. Many years ago, maybe, but. And what happens to the toys? All drop. Each and every desire for toy drops because of the sheer growth within you. And that is what knowledge does. When you grow into a higher dimension, why will you fool around with stupid things? Stupidity it is. Jewelry and clothes and stupidity, don't get me wrong, I don't mean stupidity in that sense. They're trivial things. So that at a certain age you fool around with them. You grow out of it. What value will you have for it? You know? When you develop that inner beauty, which cannot go with age. With age, you get wrinkles, you get all that sort of thing. But with inner beauty and inner transformation, age doesn't remove that. It only enhances with age. So you invest in that, you've got it. Then you're not concerned with Botoxing and I don't know what oxing. You've got it. Today, the world is all about superficial things. Who in the world talks about inner beauty and how to develop that? Vyasa was was an ugly person. But you read the Dhyana shlokas, Vishala Buddheya, what an attractive person. Ashtavakra was a man who was cut into 8 pieces, which is why he's called Ashtavakra. But what a brilliant person. What an attractive person. So what actually attracts, what makes you attractive is the spirit inside. The more you connect with the spirit, you become so attractive. So invest in that. Because this goes with age. Have you seen Vaida Rahman now? Asha Parekh, you don't feel like looking at them. But there was a time when, by God, she was adored. She had thousands of fans. So that's what it is. So we have now come to the end of this session today. But we have 6 more sessions, 6 more days, 6 more consecutive days. And my appeal to you is, for whatever reason, we got these days, which any day is good to talk about the Gita, but it is interspersed with festivals. There's Raksha Bandhan on Thursday, there's Independence Day, then there's what else? Something after that, Parsi New Year. So it's a long weekend. And that many temptations are there for you to do other things. My appeal to you is that The Prempuri Ashram Trust has very kindly organized this thing. The Daya family and the Daya Trust has invested in this. And we, thanks to them, we have a wonderful opportunity to discuss this. So do what you want over the weekend and on Raksha Bandhan Day, but come. And please make an effort to get young people to come here. This is a path of action. It's meant for young people. Right? The only young lady I can see is here in front. So make an effort to get more people. They will, of course, say no. They'll say it's boring. So you have to use arm twisting methods and say, come one day. If you don't like it, don't come the rest of the days. Or like our friend here called one day at the lectures, I suddenly found an increase in the audience. And then I realized why. Because he told all his friends, if you come to the lecture, I'll treat you to dinner after that. It bore a huge hole in his pocket, but we got a large audience. Okay. Thank you very much and hope to see you tomorrow and the next 6 days. Yes. Incidentally, if you have any questions, we can answer them after the session. Is that okay? Yeah. One sec. You want to conclude your... No, do it now so that whoever wants to go can go.
Jayaji will be here for the next 6 evenings. So please join us every day till Sunday, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. If you come a few minutes before, we'll have the bhajans play. And so this is for these 7 days. After that, if you'd like to pursue your study of the Gita, we have the pen drives. The entire Gita is explained in video and audio formats. So you can listen to it at your convenience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Purely about identity. At the end of your life also, experience me. The only thing which I can think of is I'm not the body mind individual. Assertion of the negation is there. Sorry, negation of the body mind individual. But the assertion of the higher is never taking place. I don't know where it was going wrong here.
Because you're aiming too high. You're aiming for Atman when you don't know Atman. Right? I mean, you can't relate to it. So you must aim at something beyond yourself, something that you can relate to, like the country. We are going to celebrate the 75th year of our independence. What have you done for the country? Have you ever thought of the country? And yet there have been thousands of people who sacrificed their lives for the country to gain independence. So this is a more relatable thing that you can identify with. You feel for it. I can't listen to the national anthem without getting moved, not once. So there's that identification and the feeling that, yes, I must do something for the country. That's what, see, every Japanese worker thinks Japan first. That's why the Japanese they were a mess after the Second World War. The atomic bomb was planted on them. What more do you want? On a small country. What a way they came up. How? Everybody thought Japan first. And in the auto, it actually translates into money, profit. In the auto industry, American and Japanese are the foremost, right? For every American car manufactured, they spend something like $400 more on repairs during what is it called? Huh? What? Warranty period. Than a Japanese car. Multiply that by the number of cars they sell every year. You see the money there? One company in South India, 1 year, decided we will go for quality. Automobile component manufacturers. And they did such a good job, they won the Deming Prize. Deming is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize. And prior to that, no country, no company had won other than American or Japanese. Suddenly they woke up and said, where is India in the scheme of things? They not only won, they helped 8 other companies win the Deming Prize the following year. That's how India became the hub for automobile component manufacture. So there are little things we can do, every one of us, that build the national, what do you call that, assets. And we can do it. Like every time I speak, every time I'm doing something, I'm reminding myself that I represent Vedanta. It's not about me. It's about how Vedanta comes across. So that little extra you give. Otherwise, speaker, Bhagavad-Gita, 4th verse, and they are bored, how will the audience be excited? So there must be that inspiration. So if not nation, then something beyond you find that inspires you, that motivates you. And don't worry about Atman, you'll get there. Take baby steps first. Okay? Any other question? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, see, the confusion has arisen because the term vasana, the word vasana, in other languages is necessarily negative. But in Vedanta, it simply means inherent leaning, inclination towards a particular thing. It's not negative. Yes, from the absolute standpoint, it's negative in the sense it's blocking your vision of Godhood. But vasana in Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, it has a negative connotation. In the original Sanskrit, it doesn't have negative. So you could have a vasana for positive things, for music, for Vedanta, for God. Okay? Thank you. We meet tomorrow, 6:30. Ved, V is vasana. Vasana makes you think. T is thought. And then you invest in the thought. A stream of thoughts is a desire. And then final is action. Now, all that didn't fit in one slide, so we just use the letter. Thank you.